Hey guys, how about forgetting your own self and feeling highly alienated from looking at the camera and talking? Because it's been the furthest thing from your mind. But also, how about a few words about this Buddhist center that we visited with Mr. Robbins, where he accepted Vajrayana Buddhism and is currently practicing the highest tantric path, even though I told him to start with the Mahayana. So, Dalai Lama has a number of relatives, or had, because some of them have passed away. One of them was his brother Tupten Jigme Norbu. He was recognized also as a reincarnate Lama. According to Tibetan Buddhism, when a very advanced yogi passes away, he's able to direct his next rebirth, unlike most of us who just randomly are tossed around by the force of our own karma. And so they reincarnate for the benefit of all beings, and their former disciples, their students, find them among the children and do tests on them, like presenting him with ritual objects, etc. So, in any case, Tupten Jigme Norbu was recognized as a reincarnated Lama before the Dalai Lama was actually recognized as the Dalai Lama. And so he was the head of a monastery. Then the Chinese invaded. The Chinese really zoned in on him as the brother of the Dalai Lama, who was recognized at that point, and they really forced him, they wanted him to denounce his brother and denounce the Tibetan government. He didn't want to do that, obviously, and so he pretended to be a Chinese sympathizer and go to Lhasa in order to make the case for Chinese occupation to the Dalai Lama. So they let him free, and he went to Lhasa and did the opposite. He denounced the horrors of the occupation, and then as the Chinese were advancing on Lhasa, he logically, after having betrayed their trust, he fled to India and then later to the United States of America, where he established this very center, the Tibetan Cultural Center in Indiana, because he was a professor of Tibetan studies there. Okay? So this is Tupten Jigme Norbu, the brother of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Now there is a very high Lama, the Panchen Lama, who is generally presented as the second most powerful Lama, reincarnated Lama after the Dalai Lama. This gets a little bit more complicated, but for the sake of this introduction, I'll just say that he is the second most powerful Lama after the Dalai Lama. Historically, the Chinese have tried to use this reincarnation for divide and conquer purposes, going back to the previous reincarnation, the 19th Panchen Lama. However, during this time of the invasion, there was the 10th Panchen Lama, and his monastery actually welcomed the Chinese occupation as liberation, basically issued something along the lines of a welcome to the Chinese, okay? Now, he was just a child at the time, so it's likely that his attendant and his monastery did it. But in any case, he had a reputation at the outset of supporting the Chinese. Whether this was because of the pressure from his attendants, etc., from his entourage, or from his own initiative. The fact is that after the Dalai Lama fled Tibet, left Tibet for India, because the Chinese likely wanted to arrest him and ship him off to mainland China. The Panchen Lama was used by the Chinese, elevated as a replacement for the Dalai Lama. He cooperated to some degree, but finally when they started destroying and attacking the monasteries, he spoke out against them. They put the pressure on him by arresting most of his monastics in his a monastery that was untouched before, and then they wanted him to denounce the Dalai Lama. At this point, he refused to denounce the Dalai Lama and actually praised him and asked for his return publicly, at which point he was attacked by the party, struggled against, shipped off to prison where he spent, I think, a decade. He spent a decade in prison, then some time in house arrest. Then he emerged from house arrest. He went back to Tibet, was shocked to discover the remnants of the Cultural Revolution, which meant the total destruction of his monasteries, including the tombs of the previous Panchen Lamas. He criticized the Chinese occupation, saying that it brought some benefit, but it brought more harm. And then he died, which many people believe that he was poisoned. In any case, he was connected also to a third Lama, who is the 8th Arja Rinpoche. Okay, so the 8th Arja Rinpoche was recognized by the 10th Panchen Lama. The Arja Rinpoche is a very high reincarnation who is the traditional abbot of Kumbum Monastery, which is a huge monastery, or at least it used to be, with like 3,000 monks, a major monastic institution.
So then let me tell you one very interesting story. That's very funny. We said one day we have a team leader. The monks, all monks gather together as a team, have to go to work like that. One day the team leader said, we have a new rule. We have to report to Chairman Mao every day and night. Okay, then okay, well, how? Then they had the meeting. They gave him a big picture, Chairman Mao's big picture, a lot bigger than this tanka, really big. Then he put this in his wall. Then we all gathered together and take off our hats and very, respectfully stand there. And he was leading us. And then we report to Chairman Mao that, dear Chairman Mao, started today, we're going to, today we're going to field to do so and so. So this is our mission. We're going to complete that mission. And please be well, or whatever, some good wishes and something. And then we left. So then we went to field to work. Then in the evening, come back, we have to report to him again. So that day, he, with a little apology, because we didn't complete the weather and everything. So sorry, dear Chairman Mao, we didn't finish. That's the whole thing. But the next day we will do better. So that's very funny, right? So that's even became worse. Later, we have to carry His Holiness, almost His Holiness, Chairman Mao's picture to the fields. So we made a banner. We carry this one, go to a field, put him on the field, then we have to report to him constantly. So then one very funny story happened. One guy said, I'm sick. I'm going to go home and see the doctor. So the team leader, and of course that person had a very kind of little bit complex or something, then said, no, I don't know. So you should ask Chairman Mao, not me. So that guy went to Chairman Mao, said that same thing. I have to see the doctor 2 days. Can I be excused 2 days? Then, of course, Chairman Mao said nothing. He just left. Then that guy, the team leader, was upset because that's teasing me, right? He was teasing me. So then he left, and then after the 6 days, then he come back. Then he was really upset that he said just missing 2 days, but you already spent 5 days. Then he said, I asked Chairman Mao. Chairman Mao didn't say anything. Then on his picture, he's like that, So that's why he might give me 5 days permission. So that's why I left. So that's really a true story happened. Very funny. So that's the Cultural Revolution. That's all happened.
After the death of Mao, he was released and rehabilitated and allowed to take reins of the monastery, this huge monastery of which very little remained. Now at this point, the 10th Panchen Lama died or was killed. Are you following? The 10th Panchen Lama died or was killed, and because the Panchen Lama recognized the true reincarnation of the 8th Arja Lama, Arja Rinpoche. Because of this, fucking A, why am I going on for so long? They wanted the Chinese party wanted Arja Rinpoche to validate their pick for the next Panchen Lama. The Chinese government got into the business of recognizing reincarnated lamas. There is an official law in China that the party must approve all living Buddhas, as they put it. And they're going to do the same thing with the Dalai Lama. They want to pick his next reincarnation. And the Dalai Lama actually recognized a different child for the next reincarnation of the Panchen Lama. But this child was taken by the government, by the Chinese government, and hidden. Nobody knows where he is today. He's likely somewhere in mainland China, deprived of any Tibetan education. Nobody knows where he is. He was last seen as a child. And they picked their own Panchen Lama, the Chinese Panchen Lama.
谈向习近平敬献了哈达，并介绍了他坐床20年来的情况。习近平对他在各方面取得的进步表示祝贺。习近平指出，西藏自治区驻西藏同各族人民一起庆祝这一节日。在党中央关心和全国人民大力支援下
However, Arja Rinpoche didn't want to cooperate in this fraud, and so in spite of having good relations with the Chinese, he fled and met the Dalai Lama, who then appointed him to be the head of this Tibetan and now Mongolian, because Arja Rinpoche is an ethnic Mongolian minority in Tibet, Tibetan and Mongolian Cultural Center. And we actually saw, myself and Mr. Robbins, Arja Rinpoche there, but I was too shy to really start a conversation. I was just too shy. So I guess now you know. Has this clarified things?
Can I invite you guys to Indiana, to Hoosier's place?
We would be delighted to
Okay.
come.
All right, so here's Mr. Robbins in a particular kind of suburban man sort of pose, I guess. Yes, cutting some shrubbery.
Yes.
Yes, and so, Mr. Robbins, are you aware of the fact that back in old Tibet, which was, of course, the size of approximately Western Europe, certain individual going on pilgrimage to Lhasa would prostrate, do full body prostrations all the way there?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Does this give you encouragement as we set out on our journey?
It's something I'm very unlikely to do.
Yeah.
Especially with my neighbor in his MAGA hat and his truck. I'm not.
Yes, there is no real cultural reference for doing that, so we're just going to take the cargo van. I guess there's spiritual significance to that as well, to that driving, especially since we're not exactly sure that we're actually going to make it inside, because it's not clear to what extent. I mean, they're open to visitors, but you know.
Well, we'll make the journey and make the most of it.
Yes, it is the intention of the journey. That's where the positive karma comes from. A certain anticipation. Now, a lot of people are unaware that Mr. Robbins actually lives with two 22-year-old Croatian honeys, Mienka and Svenka. Is this, you're usually too modest to admit this?
Well, yeah, we'll just... I'll keep that one to myself.
Yeah, but will you be willing to part for our 7-hour journey?
I
with
think
them?
they'll be fine.
Okay.
I've left them with some, a little bit of entertainment, food, little, you know,
Okay.
plenty of nourishment in there.
All right, my friend. The cargo van is ready, and actually had an oil change and the brakes work, which is all we need, I guess. So it's a very stupid way to travel at 12 miles a gallon, and a gallon costing almost $3. But this is the Alpha way. This is elevated. Look how elevated it compared to the Jeep. So yeah, we're all off to our spiritual Alpha journey.
which is the crystal right on top. Right on top. Afterwards, when you go near, then you will see. So this is the Kalachakra Stupa. Now we come to here now. This is welcome to Kundong Chamsiling Temple. Now this go right into the shrine room. It's Om Mani Padme Hum. You know the meaning, jewel in the lotus there.
And, seems like a lot of times when it comes. Then on the other hand,
Mr. Robbins, can you tell us what you're holding in your hand?
I'm holding a flyer for Zoopolis, the exotic petting zoo here in beautiful Columbus, Indiana.
Why are we here?
Well, we taken a little detour. I saw the sign on the highway as we were driving for the exotic petting zoo here, and I was really, really intrigued. So we took a little detour in hopes of finding the place.
Yeah. So our internet connection actually didn't work, so we missed it because there's no fucking sign here anywhere for this fucking Zoopolis. So we just drove by and then came back, and that took us another like around 25 minutes.
Yeah, so we've been wandering around for 30 to 45 minutes.
Yes, like Jews led by fucking needy Moses, who's some sort of a fucking douche who needs to pet animals.
Exotic animals.
Yeah. No, you were very desperate to pet even like shitty regular dogs and cats. No insult to Grant's pets. And when you came to my house, you also were profoundly disappointed that the cat was not there.
Yeah, so this was my chance to get plenty of animal petting in a very short amount of time.
Yes. And how many animals did we end up petting here?
0.
0, yeah. Why?
Because apparently these are scheduled tours.
Uh-huh. Yes, you did see a few animals there. You saw, what did we see there?
I saw some baby goats and some sort of medium-sized fowl.
So this is the glimpse of the animals that we saw.
Yes.
This is this is what we have been driving.
I saw the potential.
Yeah. Were you kind of, I don't know what the word for this is. Did your needy fingers start to sort of tremble in anticipation of pets? That...
Yes. And not only that, but the calls of these wild animals that I can hear in the background, all tempting me.
Yeah.
To no avail,
and
to
yet,
no satisfaction.
And yet, Mr. Robbins, when you heard the price...
Yes, costly.
Yeah, it would even, this even pisses me off less than the fact that it's closed and we drove around for nothing, than if we came here and then your cheap Midwestern fucking imposition would make it worthless this way.
$33 is expensive just to pet animals.
In relation to how your eyes lit up immediately, and how, like you said, driving to the meditation center, you were zoned out.
Yes.
But then when this idea was brought up, you immediately were zoned in on this.
You're right. $33 would be a small price to pay for all of the anticipated pleasure.
Yeah. It would be a steep price. I would just sit in my van. And then I would inquire about your petting.
Well, we've been invited to come back. So,
yeah, she kind of beheld us like two weird fucks who just, she's like, and why are you guys here? Exactly, there's no fucking sign, and there's no fucking explanation as to why fucking 2 adult men
in a cargo van
came to pet some fucking animals. There's no fucking good explanation for it.
Exactly.
All right, well, I don't know what else to say. I guess there is some group of like children walking by. who have done something we haven't, which is to pet some animals. What would be a fair fee for this?
I was thinking maybe $15 or $20.
Yeah.
$33 seems a little steep, but who knows?
Well, I mean, they do have here chocolate alpaca, which
chocolate alpaca.
Yeah.
Pepe Le Pew the skunk.
Jesus Christ, this is so fucking stupid.
baby raccoon rocket.
Yeah. Our sweet red fox, which to just end our misery here, Mr. Robbins, looking at these animals, which one particularly tempts you? Maybe Shia, the timber wolf?
I do like the chocolate alpaca, and I made sure to inquire in the event that we do come back what sort of monkeys they have.
And what did they say? They say they only indicated they had a primate, right?
Right. Yeah, some small monkey.
A lemur.
Lemur, okay.
Which is not a monkey at all.
Okay, it's a primate of some sort of.
Good enough for you?
Well, yes. My fear was that they would have a chimp.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get anywhere close to a chimp.
So lemur, now they have it at this stupid fucking place has it at a different location also. But in any case, Mr. Robbins, would this be worth the price of admission? Like, how many monkeys would you need to pet to justify a $33 fee?
I would need at least a full 5 minutes of monkey petting.
Okay. All right, well, with this, we sort of leave Zoopolis, although I feel that on a meta level, I have actually visited Dushilopolis with this just needy, pathetic douchebaggery. And I have driven around risking my life on these narrow, stupid roads, and now we go further.
Reflections.
What are your thoughts about this tree? Do you know anything about it?
I don't know much about the history of it, other than it's like a real hallmark of Greensburg, Indiana.
It's been a nice trip. It's been relaxing. It's sort of soothed my mind away from the manic conceptions of Buddhism into something more pedestrian that kind of cooled my head a little bit, and I hope that it lasts. I don't know, this manic cycle has been going on for a couple of weeks, and it's hard for me to distinguish reality from fantasy, but when your ideas of religion are so grandiose and then they're grounded in just, you know, like a gift shop and a temple and just some stupas, you know, it adds some kind of weight of day-to-day life to it that takes away some of that edge that you have when you're just insane in your head.
Okay, well, anything else you want to add about this experience?
No, we're good. Well, the two failed petters of exotic animals that were done with our trip were here at Mr. Robbins' house, and didn't take us as long as we thought it would. We're back early now. Mr. Robbins, you have just said that you're spent and you really have no impressions from our journey. Is this still correct? Has any reflection appeared to you, like any new thought when I was setting up the camera?
Nothing particularly deep. I mean, I did enjoy my time. I enjoy being a passenger and just relaxing. the Buddhist temple. The whole place was interesting. It was a little disappointing that we didn't get to pet the exotic animals, but we had a fine meal, spent some quality time together.
Okay, yeah, we did go to a nice diner in Indiana. I haven't spent much time in Indiana before here. The only reason to go to the state, of course, is to go to the Tibeto-Mongolian Cultural Center started by the brother of the 14th Dalai Lama. Mr. Robbins, any spiritual experience, anything arising in you? Do you have a sense of maybe like a tiny Dharma seed planted in you that could manifest in future lifetimes?
No, and it's probably even a little mildly concerning that I've had no spiritual arousal. I'm afraid that maybe it just doesn't exist within me.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I mean, I think that, you have to be open to the Dharma seed and sometimes the connections that we did see some monks and a lama in there doing exercises.
Correct.
Or potentially being invested in some sort of a spiritual practice or both. And these connections are, that don't happen randomly, Mr. Robbins. Something brought you here, and this was my cargo van. And then something maybe will bring you again to these lamas and monks in future lives.
And it could be the draw of the exotic petting zoo.
Yeah, this could somehow enter into the whole thing as well. Well, the last thing I will say is that I was kind of remarkably impressed by your total lack of curiosity. That is to say, within the whole experience, you have never asked even a single question about anything pertaining to Tibetan Buddhism or the center itself.
That's probably true.
Yeah, not one.
Well, I will say that during most of the day and during the time that we were there, that I didn't want to. I didn't feel that I had anything of value to really add.
Okay. No, I mean, I think it's fine, Yin. I wasn't there to convert Mr. Robbins, just to plant a little tiny Dharma seed to flower in the future. I like the grounded, just everyday experience of going to the center. It as far as the Buddhist locations I've been to, aesthetically, I really thought that the temple interior would have more to offer. It was the temple, the inside of the temple was a little bit kind of, I guess, not very traditional. And I'm not talking about the pictures of Jesus that were put up there for the sake of religious harmony, but just in and of itself, not the glorious shrine room that I perhaps would anticipate. But that's a minor aesthetical point. Overall, it was nice to be grounded in kind of something real rather than thinking about religion just in this crazy way, just seeing the offices and tour guide, just getting away from the swirl of fairies and Buddhist societies and so on. So that was pretty cool. So thank you for watching, if anybody's watching this shit. But maybe one day too, I will take you on my cargo van to some important Tibetan cultural center here in the United States of America. And that's not a threat. To